In this video, we will discuss the capacity providers in ECS. Capacity provider is one of the compute options. You can configure it to run the ECS tasks or services. We already checked about the launch types. When specifying a launch type, your tasks are launched directly on either Fargate or on the EC2 instances that are registered to your clusters. It's difficult to maintain the infrastructure and the scaling aspect with the launch type, especially in case of EC2 instances. Capacity providers provide a more efficient approach to achieve this. As per ECS, the core idea with the capacity provider is to shift the operational burden of compute away from the developers and enable them to focus on the application first. ECS supports three types of capacity providers: Fargate, Fargate Spot, and EC2 instances. Fargate and EC2 we already discussed as part of the launch types. Fargate Spot uses spare capacity in the AWS cloud to run ECS tasks. When the capacity for Fargate Spot is available, you'll be able to launch the tasks. When AWS needs the capacity back, tasks running on Fargate Spot will be interrupted and stopped. As this is not the committed capacity for you, AWS offers this for much lower price compared to Fargate. As your tasks could be interrupted, you should only run the tasks on Fargate Spot which can tolerate interruptions. For instance, the batch applications, which can restart from the last point of failure. Fargate and Fargate Spot capacity providers are created by ECS on your behalf. You just have to set the Fargate flag as true for it. On the console, I can just select the Fargate type, or in our CDK code, I can just set the attribute, enable Fargate capacity providers as true. By configuring this, ECS will automatically create Fargate and Fargate Spot capacity providers for you. For EC2, you need to specify the auto-scaling group, and attach it to the capacity provider, which will be further attached to the ECS cluster. There are a few more parameters to consider while defining the EC2 capacity provider, including managed scaling, target capacity, and managed termination protection. Capacity provider uses EC2 auto-scaling group, so that EC2 instances can be scaled out, or scaled in, aligned with the variation in application load. For this we need to create the scaling policy and associated CloudWatch metrics. With ECS Capacity Provider, you have the option to let ECS manage the scaling for you. If you select the Manage Scaling for EC2 instances, ECS configures the scaling policy and CloudWatch metrics for you. If you turn on Manage Scaling, you set a target percentage for the utilization of EC2 instances in the auto-scaling group. The auto-scaling group scaling policy treats this as the threshold to scale out, or scale in the EC2 instances, in the auto-scaling group. When ECS metric indicates that the utilization percentage is less than the expected value, it scales in the auto-scaling group. In this case, it might terminate one or more EC2 instances. ECS provides the option to manage these terminations. You can set the Manage Termination Protection flag. If this flag is on, ECS only terminates EC2 instances that don't have any running ECS tasks. In a cluster, you can have one or more capacity providers, and you can launch your task instances across a combination of them. You might ask, why would I need multiple capacity providers? There could be multiple reasons for this. You can have different microservices, customer profiles, different regions, etc. And each of them could demand a different platform to run your containerized applications. Let's say, we want to make our to-do application as a paid service. I have three customer profiles. Free tier, where the users like to try out the features. Basic tier, where the users can access basic features of our application. Premium tier, where they can access the advanced features of our application. I can set the Fargate Spot capacity provider for the free tier, as this will cost less. I am not much worried about the availability in this case, as the users are not committed yet. For the basic tier users, I can use Fargate as the capacity provider. And for the premium users, I want to process the requests on EC2 instances, so I will choose the EC2 capacity provider for them. If you are choosing capacity provider to run your tasks or services, you will be asked to provide the capacity provider strategy. This strategy determines how the tasks will be spread across multiple capacity providers. A capacity provider strategy consists of one or more entries. Each of these entries represent a capacity provider, associated based on the weight attributes. Weight attribute indicates the relative percentage of the number of task instances using this capacity provider. For instance, I can say that 50% of my tasks should run on Fargate and 50% of my tasks should run on Fargate Spot. Base attribute indicates the minimum number of task instances to be run before any strategy is applied. For instance, I can say initialize my task instances on Fargate only, till the count reaches 5. Once done, the tasks can be spread across based on the strategy. For this, I will just put 5 as the base attribute value for Fargate Capacity Provider.